Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this week's episode. It's going to be me talking to you about the ETF and what in the world that means for Bitcoin. Also going to talk to you guys about entrepreneurs' biggest struggle. What an entrepreneur's biggest struggle could be. And then other things that I got going on. It's been a minute since I did one that was just me. But before you do that, you should get a BitBox02 hardware wallet. Go to bitbox.swiss/Bitcoin Made Simple. Use promo code Bitcoin Made Simple to get 5% off. Get your coins off the exchange, people. And I'm constantly reminded how easy it is to use because if you're a good pleb, you should every month or two just check your backups and get into that hardware wallet. Make sure everything is good. And it's just so simple to use. And also they shared out a thing. I liked it or retweeted it or something, but how they have there's a notification within the application that shows you whether or not you're using an authentic BitBox hardware wallet. So that way, if you ever got one and you weren't sure of the legitimacy of it because you didn't listen to me and you didn't go to bitbox.swiss/Bitcoin Made Simple, then maybe you got yourself scammed and it would alert you. So anyways, you guys should do that. Also, if you want to help me out in the independent film streaming world, you can sign up for Movies Plus. Go to mymoviesplus.com and it's promo code Corey, CORY, gets you 1 year for $24. And again, I'm humbled, but it slowed down a little bit. What are you guys doing? A lot of people used it, but I could use some more people using it. Anyways, we have some exciting stuff there. Maybe I'll get into that as well. But the first thing I want to talk about was the ETF cometh and the ETF goeth. Nothing happened. There's no big price spike. In fact, I don't check the price too often, but let's see here. The price of Bitcoin is down to $41,570. So the price has dipped actually after the ETF. Everybody thought, here comes Wall Street, it's gonna moon. And this way you don't depend on everything being number go up to the moon, all that kind of stuff. Because I'll tell you guys, I could have made when Bitcoin was at 15,000, I could have done something risky and actually bought Bitcoin with debt. And then when it was at 15,000, and I really, 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 really wanted to do that. So I could have bought Bitcoin with debt at 15,000, and the price jumped up to 45,000, which was literally tripled in value. So in retrospect, it would have been smart. It wouldn't have been. Don't worry. I'm not saying this is smart. But I would have looked like a genius had I bought with all that debt, and then a handful of months later, it tripled, and I could just take 1/3 of the Bitcoin then and pay back the loan, and the rest of that Bitcoin, all of a sudden, I have sitting there in my BitBox02 hardware wallet for eternity. So, yeah, that would have looked like a genius move. But I actually think the genius thing to do was to not do that, because I would have been flipping miserable between now and then. or between then and now. So I wouldn't be able to get that time back. If I had that extra Bitcoin, sure, that'd make my life a little bit different right now. Um, but in the off chance that it doesn't work out that quickly the way you want it to, then you're in for a hurting. Um, and that is going to be a painful, painful lesson. It can make your life significantly worse. So the temptation is real. Sitting there, the temptation is a real temptation to sit there. I remember early on seeing people say, make sure you don't buy Bitcoin with debt. And I was like, whoa, what idiot would do that? But then every time Bitcoin goes like really low, there's that temptation. Anytime there's a decent dip, like significant, there's that temptation to be like, I could make a killing real quick. It's just not a smart thing to do, because the short term of Bitcoin is we don't really know. If you listen to everybody, it was the ETF was going to make this thing pump to the moon. And it didn't. I don't know why. Maybe Wall Street had it in for Bitcoin. Wall Street wanted to, slow its roll, and, so they messed up the ETF release. People couldn't buy it. It was kind of a fumble. They fumbled the snap on hiking this and getting it started. And, I don't know, it just didn't, it did nothing. So I don't know. There are some that'll say that maybe money supply is more the factor, and I tend to agree. So the money supply is not in a position that's going to cause things to go bullish at the moment. So the trying to time the market is the stupidest thing you could do. That's why this isn't financial advice, but I just always tell you guys, don't be buying Bitcoin with money that you need in the near future. Because that is stupid. That is ill-advised. And you should just work as hard as you can to increase your cash flows to have extra money to put away and put that into Bitcoin. That's what you do. It's the only way to do it. And, everything else, if you're trying any other angle, it's a shortcut. You're aiming for a shortcut in life. And trying to take a shortcut to financial prosperity rarely, almost if ever, almost never pays off. There are a few people that just get lucky, but the numbers are against you. The odds are against you. Do not do it. If you think you're smart, you're not. If you think you're smart, well, you might be smart. I don't mean to insult you. If you think you're smarter than everyone else, smarter than the market, you're not. Because also the market's not sane. It's not like it's a sane market where you're like, oh yeah, and like everything in this makes sense. Like nothing makes sense. The only thing that makes sense is Bitcoin. It's the only thing that's not a lie. So yeah, the ETF, it cometh and it goeth and it doeth nothingeth. And that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. Don't rely on outside influences to push your money up. Just buy and stack Bitcoin as much as you can, as fast as you can, with money that you don't need in the near future. So anyways, that's enough of my preaching about that. The other thing I want to talk about is entrepreneurship. And so there's multiple angles here. One thing that is, so I'm contemplating, and you guys tell me, send me messages on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. But like, I talk about Bitcoin and everything, but I talk about entrepreneurships so much too, and other stuff. Um, so I thought about like, well, maybe I should start getting to like into entrepreneurship stories, talking about stuff that I'm doing, maybe giving pointers to people. I don't know, because like here's my thought process on it. Just running this through with you guys. It's not that I don't want to be a Bitcoin podcast, but if you guys listen, like I talk about Bitcoin every episode, but I also talk about a bunch of other stuff. And I don't know. I'm thinking like we get into having the renewed interest in Bitcoin. It's going to become a mainstream topic again. Everyone's going to talk about it. And, if people are finding the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast, is it going to be like a turnoff for them to Bitcoin? Because like they'll come into this podcast thinking, I think back, I was like, geez, 5 years ago or whatever now at this point. And, whenever I started like tuning into Bitcoin podcasts and listening, and that's whenever you gain a lot of your early knowledge. And I'm not saying that I don't provide knowledge or perspective. I don't know. It's just my honest feelings is that like, I talk about Bitcoin plus a bunch of other stuff, and you guys all like it, obviously, because you're listening, and I appreciate that. It blows me away that as many of you listen as you do. So this isn't even really me trying. This isn't me trying to appeal to a broader audience. It's like the opposite. Like I'm realizing that I talk about Bitcoin plus a broad spectrum of topics, and if there's a big bull run and people are jumping in, and my Bitcoin podcast is specifically branded as Bitcoin Made Simple, like the artwork and everything literally has like the Bitcoin logo in it, has the Bitcoin Genesis block as like the background. So I don't know. I feel weird about it, just thinking that like you're gonna have new plebs coming in, getting into Bitcoin, going into their podcast places, typing Bitcoin. Mine's gonna come up and they're gonna be like, "This dude sort of talks about Bitcoin." I don't know. So yeah, anybody, if you can message me, give me some tips. What you think? And I also realize I should be doing a better job of like promoting myself. I don't tweet these episodes out. I don't put any posts about the episodes. You guys just all are, I guess, subscribed and download and listen to the episodes, which is really cool. It's interesting because on like YouTube, I get about, I want to say like 20 to 50 views per episode, which is like pales in comparison to the podcast downloads. I don't know why that is, to be honest. It can't. I mean, again, it's probably just because I don't promote it. Like I don't do a good job of it. So that's the other end of the equation is how do I promote it? Let's say hypothetically, I'm not saying that I am valuable Bitcoin content, but hypothetically, if I offer a good insight and a good like not outsider's perspective, but like not like I'm not like Marty Bent where like my entire life literally revolves around Bitcoin, or I'm not like Guy Swan who's like specifically reading Bitcoin articles and like making them the audible versions, and like I'm just different than them, and that's fine. So I don't know, should I try and beef this up to, like put some like window dressing on it to kind of bring more people in. Because if I'm not like just a specific Bitcoin like branded thing, but I talk about Bitcoin so much, like I'm gonna get entrepreneurs coming in that want to hear entrepreneurial stories. I talk about movies or sports, whatever. I don't know. Because if you guys follow me on Twitter, I've been during the football season talking a lot about football because it's something I like. So it's like I don't know. I don't know the right way to approach it. Because really, it's just me. I'm like I do the podcast. You guys like it. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. I could be overthinking it. Just giving you guys a little peek behind the curtain. So yeah, I don't know. And here it's really funny to transition this way into this topic, but you should get a BitBox02 hardware wallet. But me sitting here debating, talking, what should I do? I don't know. I wanted to say that the biggest problem in hurdle facing most entrepreneurs is trying. I hear it all the time from people that want to be entrepreneurs and talk themselves out of every idea. And you can't do that because you don't know what's going to hit. So I'll give you an example. Like, you guys know I have Movies Plus. I also produced a movie called Unsinkable that we're going to be releasing in theaters on April 12th. So that's another project. I'm looking at my big board here of projects. Starting up a sports podcast with a beat writer for the local sports team. Bitcoin mining off of natural gas. My regular movie sales company. And then also I'm looking at starting up a vending company with my brother-in-law where we can it's just going to be like smart coolers and put them in, higher end apartment complexes and try to build a business there. And I've got other ideas and things that need to be, enacted on, but it's like I've got so many things going in so many directions that I have to be careful so that I don't make it too much that I can't keep up with everything. But then if I meet people that are into Bitcoin and they're like, or into entrepreneurial shit, like, oh, that's so cool that you're an entrepreneur, like I want to do that, blah blah blah, and then you like talking, they have an idea, and it's like, but they just didn't go for it, or they talked themselves out of it, like, oh, well, like that sounds like a good idea, but here's the negative drawbacks, well, X, Y, and Z. But in reality, it's like, well, if there was drawbacks to this, if it was not, a business that made money, then people wouldn't do it. Like if you're looking at, the movies is one thing because that's a completely different animal. But like, if you look, for example, okay, I'm looking at my board, like the vending, people could find the downside to it, but if it was working, then if it wasn't working, then you wouldn't see vending options anywhere. So what's the deal? Like that, to me, that seems like something worth exploring. And so I guess the main point, the main takeaway is don't get stuck on the sidelines. Sitting there waiting for the perfect opportunity to come along. This vending business idea. It's like, hey, like I saw some post on Twitter about it, started researching it, sent it to my brother-in-law. Hey, this looks like this could be a legit thing. you know, start reaching around, contacting companies that, find out what the terms would be to purchase or finance any vending machine, blah, blah, blah. What's the cost going to be? Drill down on that. Okay. Turns out these things can be pretty darn profitable. And you go from there. You're off and running. Um, is there a risk to it? Sure. Um, but you got to try. So that's the big thing. You got to try. Got to try. So if you're sitting there debating on whether or not to do something entrepreneurially, go and do it. And then finally, the last thing I to mention to you guys, you might have seen my Twitter post about it, or my X post. I don't know what I'm supposed to call Twitter, but I'll just call it Twitter because, I mean, how do you X something? You can't X something, but you can tweet something. It is cold in Pittsburgh, and I have an ice rink on my driveway right now. And it's also like another entrepreneur. It's almost like an entrepreneurial lesson because I was like, I know a lot of people, like my brother's one of them, for example, always say, like, oh, I'm going to build one for my kids. I'm going to build one for my kids, and he hasn't. And, there's I'm sure he's busy. Like he's got, a bunch of stuff going on. And I've always said, like, I've built small ones in the past, but I've always said I'm going to do it right up, do it right. And then last week, like it dipped below freezing last Saturday. And so on Friday, I was like, got to go to the store, buy the supplies, put the framework up, put the plastic sheet down, and start filling it with water. And you just suck it up and you do it. And then it turns out that it worked out. And now now I know how to do it, like even better than I did before. I'm going to do it, next year. I'm not going to do it on the driveway because we have enough space to skate. But I was like, oh my God, if I do this in the flat part of my yard, like I could make this like 3 times as big, make it almost like a regulation ice rink. Here we go. And yeah, we've been having a blast. The kids love skating on it. It's actually, the funny thing, it's more cost efficient to pay for the lumber and the plastic sheeting and everything than it is to go skating. The amount of times we'll go skating over the next week. And that's the big thing, is I wanted them to be able to skate more. They both want to play hockey, so got to get them, really comfortable. And it was really awesome to see, like, we just got on the ice and they had their sticks and they're ready to go. I was like, oh, all right. So I think by the end of this freeze, we will be in a position where we'll be able to start doing hockey soon. And but then it was also nice last night. My wife was going to bed at like 11, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I am gonna strap on the skates and go ice skate and shoot. Skate. It's one thing to ice skate, but if you're a hockey player, you'll understand. With the stick in your hand and the puck on the ice, just skating around with the puck is cathartic. Shooting in the net every once in a while, but I was being mindful not to because I don't have neighbors close by, but in the event that I hit a post, I didn't want to wake anybody up with ping and, loud pings at 11, 12 o'clock at night. So yeah, we're going to do that. Actually, that's probably what we're going to do whenever I get off this. So, they're probably waiting for me to go and do it. So, I appreciate you guys as always. Get yourself a BitBox, and I will talk to you guys later.